I usually do my first video with a device with the stock experience. No mods, no custom firmware. But today is special. It marks one of those moments in this retro journey where we point to a device and we say, hey Nintendo, you should be making this. The all new, all bendy, all clickety-clackety Anbernic SP. Yes, I'm calling it the Anbernic SP because its real name is ridiculous. So thank you Go Game Geek for supplying this device. They are a reseller and I will put their links to this in the description below. They offer free shipping worldwide. So whatever price you see on their website is shipped to your doorstep, which is great because some of these devices, for instance, like Anbernic, shipped to my house is very expensive. And so I often will save on websites like a Go Game Geek. And while we're thanking people, let's thank today's sponsor, PCBWay. I'm very grateful to them because they've been supporting my channel for a little while now, and they wanted me to tell you about a promotion that they're running, so check on the screen now for the promotional details. They have had an anniversary sale, so there are a bunch of coupons available. Who PCBWay are, they offer a full service website where you can put the specs for your projects onto their website, whether it's 3D printing, CNC machining, custom PCBs, all of that stuff. You just put the information on the website, place the order, and off you go. So thank you PCBWay for supporting today's video. I greatly appreciate it. So the first thing is the hinge. So Anbernic did a very similar design to the Nintendo SP, Game Boy Advance SP, and it's you know it's a tried and trusted design. It also does this, which will allow for like play if you happen to push it too far. And I do have a good feeling about this hinge. Cough. Retroid flip cough. But the other thing that they have is a Hall sensor. Now, Stubbs made a joke about it on their podcast for retro handhelds, but it is kind of cool. So what a Hall sensor is, it's a magnet that sends a digital signal to the CPU to do whatever you want with that signal. So this will obviously allow you to, when you close it, it'll send a signal to the CPU to put the device to sleep. And this device does have a normal sleep mode as opposed to the other H700 chipset devices. So that's good. Neat. So let's just call it, this thing is damn near perfect. I chose the silver to stay true to the original GBA SP color schemes, and it's really nice. I think the paint has cheapened the feeling a little bit compared to if you, example, did the clear black plastic or whatever. But honestly, I'm actually excited about it getting banged up and looking authentic. Yes, I am a weird guy. It is a bit bigger than you'd expect since it's copying a device that was thinner and smaller than this. But I must say, I got used to that very quickly. So when it first arrived, it felt big, like chunky. I was like, this is too big. I honestly got used to that very quickly after a bit of gameplay, and you actually appreciate the chunkiness, just like my Game Boy sitting on the side here. The chunkiness makes it nice to hold. It is a bit chunky in my pants pockets, but in my hoodie or whatever, it's really nice. It's also quite light. The plastic finishings do seem a little bit cheap, sort of how the edges meet up and all that sort of thing. But you know, I just love the overall vibe of this device. Obviously, the nostalgia factor is on a whole nother level with this thing. And it's one of those devices that you are just gonna pick up and play with. Because of the chunkiness, it is a bit easier and nicer to hold than something like the Powkiddy RGB20SX or, audible gasp, the Miyoo Mini Plus. But I think in all of this, it's just the nostalgia that really wins you over with this device. And then there's the quintessential Anbernic rattle. And I know, like, there are people who comment on my videos saying, do you hop around your house with these devices in your pockets? And honestly, man, I am like a 40-year-old man. I don't do stuff like that. Like, for me, the rattle is noticeable every single time I pick it up, and that bothers me. And then we have to talk about these clickety-clackety buttons. A lot of my YouTuber friends didn't make a big deal about this, but the thing is, if you have like a sound sensitivity, it's really gonna bother the crap out of you. And everyone agrees, like, this is not a nighttime in your bed device. But remember in the beginning how I said I usually review the stock version of a device in the beginning? I'm not gonna do that with this. We're gonna fix a lot of those problems because I feel like this device is worthy and deserves that special treatment. And with this D-pad, you're not going to have false diagonals like you would with a normal membrane D-pad, which is nice. And then as you watch me play Street Fighter terribly in this sample, you'll see that I got used to the D-pad as it progressed, because the D-pad is a little bit sharp around the edges. I've just before this was playing with a membrane nice D-pad, and this is a little bit of getting used to. I wouldn't say it's the best Street Fighter D-pad, but it is okay. And then also you will note that with dome switches, you're not going to have false diagonals like you have on a lot of these membrane D-pads. So that is a huge plus. So if you play a lot of platformers, like Contra and Super Mario and all those sorts of games, this is going to be quite nice for that. And I'm going to give this a build quality rating of 4, thanks to the good hinge and thanks to the sort of rugged build quality that I get from it. Obviously, this is perceived quality. I mean, I haven't used this for months on end, so I could never tell you what the long-term effects of using this are going to be, but it does seem to be a good one. And then I'm not super happy with the screens Anbernic are using for this line of devices, the H700 devices. They're too washed out, especially when you compare it to the Miyoo Mini Plus or even their own new RG Cube. It's just very washed out, but still pleasant, but not as good as the Miyoo, but nice, but not too nice. But I mean, it's fine. But when you compare the saturation and the highlights and the shadows compared to the other devices, it really isn't. So I'll give you the results of my full battery test when I do the fixing the device with the buttons and all the things. But just to say that the power down sleep mode on these H700 devices has not been good up until now. And it's not brilliant with this closing lid. It could be better. I'm not sure. This is still something that I'm busy testing, but putting muOS on here, muOS, putting that on here, it does seem a little bit better. But what I did was I said, when I shut the device, close the lid, after I think it's 5 minutes, power the device down. And it has a very quick startup time. So with muOS, I am seeing pretty good battery life in a real world test, but I'll give you my full battery test in the next video. And that brings me to the next elephant in my moderately large room, the firmware. Anbernic have been very smart with this H700 processor line, the XX range of devices. One processor means one firmware with minor tweaks with every release. And they've actually done some nice things, like a decent music player with a feature to skip songs with the L and R buttons when the lid is closed. Neat. They've made a normal sleep mode with this now on the SP, and it doesn't sleep when you have HDMI plugged in. And Bluetooth pairing with controllers actually works quite well too. So they're definitely working on it quite nicely, and it works very well as a console. However, the stock firmware is just not nice to use. It's not very attractive. And there are still some quirks that irk me, like a non-unified menu system between RetroArch and the standalone emulators. They have tried, and they have managed to get this M button to work as a unified menu button throughout the system. That is good. And they've allowed for press to power down, which I also quite appreciate. But I don't know, I'm just not loving it. I've installed muOS, which I am quite enjoying the aesthetics of it. There are some features missing there that you don't have on the stock OS, like the music player and the power down, press to power down. There's a few things that are missing here, but overall I just prefer it because it looks prettier. But I'm going to do a comparison of all the firmwares and make all the nerdy things, make a spreadsheet, and we'll nerd out on that in the next video. So the device is equipped with Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, and HDMI outputs, which means it can work very well as a console. Also, the Wi-Fi means that hopefully we will get album art scraping with the future custom firmware. You can pair your Bluetooth controllers quite well with this. Check this beautiful GuliKit controller. However, you'll need to get into RetroArch to set your input settings for the controller before you can actually use it. So there's a little bit of a setup there. Once that's done though, it is an excellent handheld as a console due to its form factor and the fact that when you close the lid, the HDMI still works. And this is another big win actually for the stock firmware, because I have been testing muOS and it does not support Bluetooth controller pairing yet. So has it dethroned the Miyoo Mini Plus? And in short, No, it hasn't actually. The Miyoo Mini Plus still has a better screen, and Onion OS is still the best retro firmware out there. You can argue with me in the comments. However, once muOS, Newly, MinUI have fully matured, I doubt I will be picking up the Miyoo Mini Plus as much. And I have a sneaky suspicion this is going to go into my personal rotation specifically for GBA for the foreseeable future. Also, Anbernic have definitely built a far better device than Miyoo and PowerKiddy in terms of build quality, and like it or lump it, their janky firmware is janky no more. It's not the best, but it's okay. And then there's the quintessential Anbernic rattle.
Oh, sorry.